Hello, welcome to Tuesday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Cott. I'm, as usual, joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Okay, all right, Dan. Yep,
We,
perfectly well. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. And I'm especially good tonight because we're also joined by the one and only Michael, the Frank the Tank Gannon, all the way from the Algarve.
Formerly Frank the Tank, don't mind.
I don't know, Mick. You look as if Frank the Tank might have made a comeback last night.
I think there's something in the water out here, Keith. Something didn't quite agree with me. But we're all right. We're soldiering on. How you doing?
Called Superbock.
Oh, no. Nothing super about it.
He's no hero, Mick. He just gets the job done. So you're obviously out there with Celtic, Mick, Portugal. But I think it's best, Keith, for us to start on a Rangers story. We will come to Celtic, plenty to talk about. But Conor Coady, Keith, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, we put the news up just online there in the last hour or so. It's actually reaching a really interesting point, the whole Conor Coady saga with Rangers. Player wants to come, Rangers want to sign him. Leicester, as we said last night, have been sort of prevaricating on it. They've obviously, they're the only club in England's 4 top divisions that haven't got a manager in place for next season, so they've not got their issues to search for at this moment in time. They have got a manager coming in who... Marty Cifuentes was the former QPR coach, but there seems to be a red tape visa issue there. Of course there is, so he's still not in place. And they are travelling to Austria tomorrow for a 10-day sort of pre-season camp. Our information is that Conor Coady hopes to be excused from the travelling party because he wants to get up the road. He wants to get involved with, he wants to sign for Rangers, obviously, first and foremost, but also then get involved in the preparations for the first leg against Panathinaikos. And time's an issue now. If he goes away to Austria for 10 days, it becomes a bit more difficult to facilitate that. So I think first and foremost, he's hoping to be left out of the travelling party. But then, there's also now a bit of a rush on to get signings made and registered in time for the first leg of the Panathinaikos game. I think it's Thursday night is when the squads are meant to be submitted to UEFA. Now, they do have a sort of loophole in there that there is room for, I think it's one late signing, Mick, which can be made up until 24 hours ahead of the kick-off next Tuesday. But if he's not available and he's not registered ahead of the first leg, he can't play in the second leg. So there's a lot at play here. But what I'm hearing tonight is that Conor Coady is trying to push as hard as he can at the Leicester end to get this one through and to get permission to come up and put pen to paper on the deal.
I mean, look, I haven't watched Conor Coady all that much. But Keith, you really rate him, don't you? You think he'll be a really big signing for Rangers?
I think he's a cornerstone potentially for Russell Martin, which is why they've expended quite a bit of time and energy on trying to get this deal done. I think Conor Coady would very quickly become, if not the first name, one of the first names in Russell Martin's starting lineup, and then it's a matter of another playing beside him at centre half. Coady has got all the qualities that Rangers need: experience, leadership. But he's also, do you know what I think what I enjoy watching him as a defender? He's a guy that just loves defending. He's not bad, by the way, with the ball at his feet. He's very strong in the air, but he loves defending first and foremost. And Rangers, I think, have been crying out for somebody like that. I'm trying to think back to Connor Goldson, something like that. It would probably be the last one that a guy that you could absolutely defensively hang your hat on. And obviously Russell Martin has brought in 2 other centre halves, Manny Fernandez and Nasser Giga. I think it's those 2 probably would be looking at fighting it out along with John Souttar if he stays to be the kind of second pick. But Conor Coady has got all the leadership qualities that I think Russell Martin's looking for. So this is one he would dearly love to get done in time for Panathinaikos, if it's not already a bit too late, because obviously I think Conor Coady, what I'm hearing is he asked Leicester to be involved in a couple of the recent pre-season games because he desperately wants to fine-tune his own fitness ahead of what he hopes is going to be a move north of the border. So, as I said, much still to be decided, much at stake, much on the table, but the clock is ticking down. It's going to be fascinating to see what the next 24 hours look like in terms of where Conor Coady is by this time tomorrow night.
Is he a player that you would rate as high, Mick?
I think it's a very low risk signing. It's a guy that's got 400 appearances in the top flight in England. Played
10
for
international caps.
Yeah, I mean, vast experience. I think it's an experience the Rangers probably need, especially when you look at the European environment. I think he'd be a good asset in that. I mean, listen, he's 33 next February, so he's not a spring chicken. But he's a kind of solid signing. I think Rangers are taking a lot of, I'm not saying a lot of gambles, but they're bringing in players and we don't know how they're going to cope with the environment or the league or just playing for Rangers in general. This is a guy it's not much of a gamble. I mean, you know what they're going to get with him. And it's a low risk move, and you just give him a bit of a stable base to build from this season. Listen, he's not going to be there 5 years. Listen, he might be there in 5 years. David Weir was putting his 40, didn't he? So who knows? But it's a good, leaving the short term, it's a good move for a couple of seasons, get a bit of stability there at the back. So I think it's a good move for him, yeah.
And Keith Gianni asks in the comments, how many qualifiers the Rangers play? It's 3, isn't it?
3 rounds of qualifiers, yeah.
If they obviously get that far.
It'll be 3 rounds of qualifiers, whatever, isn't it? Because they just drop down into the other Europa League or Conference League or whatever they end up. But they'll be hoping for 3 rounds of Champions League qualifiers. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important, Daniel, that we just say this time last night we were Hotline Live. We were, confirming that GD Gassama had agreed his deal and that he would become the 7th signing for Russell Martin of the summer, and that's exactly what's happened this afternoon. And now we're in this situation where, Conor Coady's hoping to become the 8th, and sooner rather than later. Time is now of the essence, that's for sure.
And we will talk more about Gassama a little bit later on, and we've got an interview with the Rangers manager, Russell Martin, so that's all coming with you. But in the meantime, should we touch on Celtic, given we've got Mick inside the camp?
Yes.
That was via satellite there.
Yeah.
I mean, plenty to talk about, Mick. The one name that's on the edge of every Celtic fan's lips, it seems at the minute, is Odsonne Edouard. It was trending nationwide on X last night. Is he a guy that you would think they'd go for?
Listen, I think there's an awful lot of factors at play that have to fall into place for Odsonne Edouard to come back to Celtic. For a start, there's a fee required. He's here to go his contract at Palace. They'll want a chunk of money back. I think they spent about 15 million quid on him for Celtic a few years ago. I think they imagine they want about 10 back at least. Also, the fact he's on a major salary down there, it's way above what Celtic would pay. Kind of salary.
I think it's about 100 grand a week or something, Mick.
Well, I think hearing numbers north of 80 anyway, which is way above Celtic's kind of wage levels. So he's not going to be able to get back to that easily. So unless it's a kind of payoff or whatever, or some kind of bumper sign-on fee, I don't know. But I think a lot needs to happen. I just think maybe looks like a guy perhaps destined for a kind of the Saudi League or the MLS or something like that. There's that look about him, I think. I just think maybe it's a bit of a stretch for Celtic. I think, listen, they'll be keeping an eye on it. And if the option come up, they'll explore it. But I don't think they'll get very far, to be honest with you. I don't think it'd be a move that would make financial sense to Celtic at this point in time. They know he's a good player. I don't quite buy the kind of notion that he downed tools and all that the last time round. I think he still scored 20-odd goals that season, his final season at Celtic. I think he would be a great addition to that team. Rodgers knows him, knows how he plays. I think he'd be a fantastic addition. I just think there's too many hurdles to clear to get to that, to get it to happen. So I can't see it, I'm afraid.
As an actual player, though, Keith, just as a player alone, not factoring in the finance, he's surely a player that Brendan Rodgers would want in his squad. Well,
of course he would. I'm sure he'd want Lionel Messi as well, and one or two others. But there are some deals that are financially just out of reach. and this one sounds as if it might be. Although I will add the caveat, Daniel, as we've discussed, with a whole bunch of other potential targets for Celtic this summer, it really depends what happens over the course of the window. Because if it gets down towards the end of the window and he ain't budged, and Palace are desperate to get a deal done, even just to bring the wages down, if they have to pay, they might have to pay an element of the wages to get him out on loan. This is one of those situations where you might be left waiting, right, hanging right up until the end of the window before you know what the situation is going to look like for Edouard and where his most likely destination is. He could have 3 or 4 options in the fire. They could all fall down for a variety of reasons. And he could be one of these players that's left when they get towards the end of the window thinking, right, we need to find a place for him. At which case, and we've talked about this with like say Evan Ferguson as well, these guys are, not £10 million, if that would be the fee, isn't over and above what Celtic could afford to pay. But £10 million then plus the wages that would be required that he might be offered elsewhere, that's becoming really, really difficult to match. So I would mark it down in the unlikely category, but I wouldn't rule it out completely, because I have said repeatedly, Brendan Rodgers will be looking for a player that he believes makes a difference, an improvement, a significant improvement to Celtic's attacking options. And I think that there's no doubt about it. Odsonne Edouard on the Odsonne Edouard that the Celtic fans remember watching, he makes that starting 11 better. But whether or not, once they've gone to the English Premier League, it's difficult to get them back on a financial package which is going to satisfy them. Kieran Tierney's slightly different, obviously. He'll still be very handsomely rewarded by Celtic in terms of his remuneration, but there was an element there of that the heart ruling the head or the heart ruling the bank. But Kieran Tierney wanted back to Celtic. I don't think Odsonne Edouard could claim to have grown up in the streets of Paris hoping to end his career at Celtic Park one day.
At 27, this could be his last big payday as well. I mean, Kieran Tierney had the emotional draw to Celtic.
Yeah,
he's not the norm. I mean, that. Kieran Tierney could have went and walked into a Premier League team in England for double the wages. Because by the way, there was 4 or 5 lined up to take a shot of him. So he's back for his own personal reasons. Obviously not motivated by money as much as some. But I would expect Edouard will be. His agents will be trying to get a good deal from somewhere. At 27, the next one's got to be a cracker for him, really. Could set him up. So I just can't. Like he says though, I mean, desperation does funny things in the window. It might be that it's a live one then, but at this point in time, I'd imagine he'd be hedging his bets and see where he's going next.
This generated quite a strong response in the comment section, and I should say, if you want to get involved in the discussion, please do so. We'll try and read them out. Stuart says, for me, taking Edouard back is an absolute no-brainer. He'd be fantastic. Put the fear back into Premiership defences. Makes sense to me. But Mitchell says, not for me. Hasn't kicked on. But the far bigger issue is we should have a clear strategy for recruitment, development and sales. And I don't see how he fits. He's on a high wage. No real upside on the fee. We need Edouard Mark II. John says he'd take him in a heartbeat. We had this one though, Keith.
If it's a loan deal for a season and you finance that, and you say yes, but you can't justify spending £10 million just now on him at 27 on a 4-year deal when he's going to be 31 at the end of it and not worth a bolt. So it doesn't make
an asset. Yeah,
it's not the Celtics model.
Yeah. David Beattie is written in as well. Keith, he says, please have ordered Keith. Celtic do need major surgery. A big, strong centre half, midfield enforcer like Bobby Murdoch, flying left winger, and Evan Ferguson. This is a minimum requirement if we are to progress in Europe.
Yeah, look, what I'm saying, I'm comparing, what's required on both sides of Glasgow right now. You've got a Rangers squad that clearly wasn't fit for purpose versus a Celtic squad which is coming into next season off the back of consecutive doubles. So that, if you, and I know Celtic fans might be out there saying, well, we don't want to compare ourselves with Rangers, and that's quite right. They want to be looking forward to making themselves competitive at the top level in the Champions League. I totally understand all that, but you've got to take it all in context. in order for Celtic to stay at the top of the Premiership pile in this country, they don't need a huge turnaround this summer. Brendan Rodgers needs to be able to tweak 1, 2, 3 positions that make Celtic stronger in various areas of the pitch, and that's not an overhaul. Rangers are having to try and get rid of and reassemble almost pretty much an entire squad. The numbers and the difference with what's required is really quite stark, and that's the point we're making. I get it. I think Celtic players, Celtic fans, are looking for some significant signings this summer, and you can't blame them for it. They're entitled to make demands of the club, but I just don't think that their need is anywhere near as urgent as Rangers is.
Well, I tend to think they need three and a half first team players, which is 30% of your team.
Well, it's not an overhaul of the squad, Mick.
No, you need 3 first team players. That's a significant part of the team.
Oh yeah. I'm not questioning that. I agree
at this
with
point in time, if Dyson Maeda gets injured in pre-season, is out for 3 months, Celtic are up the creek. And that's the reality. I mean, that's they'll be left way short. Still need two wide men, another striker, and someone to back up Kieran Tierney. So you'll need 3.5 first team players, and they need to be.
Well, we think Tierney's replacement is on his way, don't we, Mick?
Well, if it's the build, doesn't it?
Flavio Nazino.
Yeah, the lad playing in Belgium. I said before that it's a tricky one to fill that job, because you're not going to get a 27-year-old guy on £5 million to come and say, right, you're going to sit on the bench behind Kieran Tierney if he's fit. So it's going to be a young guy, a bit of a prospect who can make progression and improve, or you get a guy who's experienced at the other end of the scale, like your Jeffrey Sloops and that kind of thing, who can come in a bit more content to say, you'll get 25 games a season and you'll be on the bench if Kieran Tierney's fit. So it's a tricky one to pitch, but somebody has to be good enough to play in big games, because we don't know how Kieran's going to be. There might be games when you can see him come off after 70 minutes in some games because he's not played that much football. If you get 20 minutes of a qualifier in Europe left, you need to have a guy who can go in there and do the job. So it's an important position. So yeah,
I think if it's Flavio Nazino, I think that's pretty good, Mick. I think that's a pretty good level sort of understudy.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
but I do accept. I think Brendan Rodgers, in his mind's eye, he'll want a left-sided centre half, as I keep saying, that is comparable in stature and capability to that of Cameron Carter-Vickers. A match for him. I think he'll want 2 wingers, you're right, and I think he'll want a centre forward. And people will then say that they need a midfield enforcer as well. I don't know. I think if he gets 2 strikers that improve the first team, 2 wingers that improve the first team, a central striker, and a left-sided centre half, on top of, if it is Flavio Nazino that comes in as Kieran Tierney's kind of second fiddler.
That's 5 signings in the first team. That's a substantial overhaul.
But it is changes to the team, Mick. But what I'm saying is the numbers compared to what Rangers are needing to do this summer, it's a different ball game. Rangers need to try and put a squad together. It's not just making 4 or 5 changes to the start.
Listen, Celtic, they lost Kyogo in January, hasn't been replaced. They've lost Jota to injury, hasn't been replaced. Sold Nicholas Kuhn, hasn't been replaced. Greg Taylor left and Kieran Tierney came down, but that still leaves a gap at left back. Mm-hmm. So there's work to be done for Celtic. I think they will do it. I think they'll spend their usual 20 million, perhaps towards the end of the window. But they still need to get in guys, at least 3 who can get right into that team and make them stronger. Because at the moment they're weaker than they were last season, and then I think last season they're weaker than the season before. And I think they're weaker than the season before that again. So they've progressively got a little bit weaker. We don't know what the challenge is going to be like across the city and Rangers either. Celtic should be looking to get the foot down, a good start, and take advantage of any kind of teething problems across the city. But to do that, you need to get these players in place. At the moment, they're kind of in a bit of a holding pattern, but they're going to need to get the foot down at some point.
Mark in the comments says, I'm comparing the current team and the team the elite manager inherited from Big Ange, and we've regressed in all departments. Is that something you go along with, Keith? Bit of a hospital past that, but there you go.
Yeah, well, see, I disagree. to a certain extent. But I also understand the criticism, and Mick's right. And look, do you know what? See the decision to let Kyogo leave midway through last season without having somebody, ready to press the button on as a replacement. That was a real, I think, and people will look back and say, well, was it a high risk decision? Because at that point, Celtic were already pretty much coasting towards another league title. There was still European football. I thought that was unwise, and it left their chin hanging open in terms of likelihood of a reaction from the supporters. So yeah, that's not great. But I'll reserve judgment on all of this until I see what the end of this transfer window looks like for Celtic, because we discussed it last night, Dan. If this is a two-tier strategy, and the board are making sort of investment decisions just now in terms of the players that they're profiling and going after in the market, but they do still intend to fully back Brendan Rodgers with the guys that he wants to get, the guys that he would deem to be first team ready, and guys that would improve the starting 11. If both of these kind of strategies can coexist, then I think Brendan Rodgers will be perfectly happy. If, however, it turns out that there's no great kind of urgency on the Celtic board to satisfy the demands and match the ambitions of Brendan Rodgers, and he doesn't get what we expect him to get later on in this window, then it starts to look like a difficult picture and a difficult course for Celtic to navigate, because Brendan Rodgers at that point is likely to be, not best pleased that he's going into what would be his final season, and what probably certainly would be his final season under those circumstances, if he feels that he's no longer getting the financial backing and support that he's needing from the board.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I think he's certainly not quite as impatient as he was in his first spell when the frustration of the windows really got to him. He's been a bit more kind of sanguine about this time, a bit more relaxed about this time. But you look at it, his first window season back wasn't a great window. When they signed about 11 players, none of them are currently near the first team. The frustrations in the window, the January after that as well, and late last summer to get guys in the door in January. So maybe like 4 out of the 6 windows he's been kind of left a bit frustrated. Can't have another one. I mean, what's the point of having an elite manager, Brendan Rodgers, not giving the tools to do the job properly? So the next few weeks are going to be interesting, because it
will be interesting, Mick, because it also, I wonder if it points to, and there is this thing hanging over Brendan Rodgers about, going into his final year and no contract agreement in place.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder what factors will need to go on, come on for consideration in terms of what he would require, what he would look for, what he would demand if he is to extend this stay. Or are there some inside Celtic that think he's kind of made his mind up already and that he's got no intention of extending the contract, in which case, why feel obliged to push the boat out for him in this transfer market? That's the answers to all of this will become clear over the next few weeks until we get to the end of the window.
This is a wee bit of a rebuild required. I mean, we talk about teams getting odds at the end of the cycle and all that stuff. The guys that are in Celtic have lost. I mean, Kyogo, Matt O'Reilly, Abada left as well. I mean, guys who were top performers are now gone. Now Kuhn's been and gone. A lot of talent going out the door, and you have to be replaced. So it starts to look a bit like maybe not even so much this summer, but certainly next summer, potentially a kind of rebuilding job as well. But that's football, which is always evolving. That uncertainty doesn't help it, I guess, either. But you just think you've got to give him the tools to let him try and build something for this season, because the Champions League qualifiers coming around quick. They need to be ready for that one. If they don't get to Champions League group stages, it busts a hole in the finances. It changes everything. So I think they will. I still think they will spend their usual 20 million quid.
But it's how they spend it, Mick, that's going to, I think, shape the whole narrative around Brendan Rodgers and Celtic. If this is what we suspect it is, a kind of hybrid approach with the club doing their bit, but Brendan still being able to do his, then I think that works. I think everybody can feel relatively content with that. But if it is just a pivot back to the old style of Celtic in the transfer market, and it leads to Brendan Rodgers becoming frustrated and feeling that he's not been given the tools to replace quality with quality in his starting 11, that's where there'll be a problem.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
A few comments there. David says, don't see why the Celtic board would pander to Rodgers when he's not committed to more than this season and has previous for jumping ship. And Colin Jordan says, why would Rodgers get what he wants if he's not staying next season? I mean, is that something...
That's yet to be determined.
So you've got a lease out on a Rolls Royce, right? And it's only a year. You just leave it in the garage, don't drive it. Is that you're saying? Just, there's no point. We're not keeping it longer than a year anyway, so we'll not use it. It's nonsense. He's a manager just now. He's going nowhere this season. And there's trophies to be won in Europe to be competed in. So give him the tools to do it. I don't understand this. I mean, listen, players come and go and managers come and go. They accept that as well. So they'll be worrying about the manager's long-term future at this point in time. There's too much to be dealing with just now.
Bartholomew says quality takes time. It's simple. Celtic are not trolling the bottom of the barrels. No doubt quality signings will get over the line towards the end of next month. And I do think that's a fair point, really. I mean, Celtic... there's a long way to go.
It is, but Celtic did a thing last year, hit them in the pocket. It cost them extra money. They ended up paying over the odds for Adam Ida and over the odds for Arnie Engels. Guys who they could have had for a lot less money early in the window. And Austin Trust, another late arrival, £6 million. So they spent that money because they had to at that time. Because you remember back then, people were getting tetchy about signings back that time as well. And they rolled out 3 or 4 in the last week of the window. And it all end up well and good, but they were getting tetchy at that point. The punters were getting a bit anxious about spending money, and end up hitting the pocket. So it's a kind of false economy, isn't it? I know you've got to wait towards the end to get these guys that are in demand, and it can push up the fees. So it's kind of a tricky balancing act, but it ends up hitting them hard in the pocket last time. So. Maybe the lessons haven't been learned.
Alistair in the comments says, Mick sounds like Uncle Albert from Only Fools and Horses when talking about Celtic transfers. We are all doomed. Cheer up.
When I was in the Navy.
You're on the wall. You were down at Celtic's training camp today, Michael. Much to report? Much going on?
No, they're heading down just now from Lisbon. Ahead of the game tomorrow night.
So they're not in.
They trained this morning and hit down this afternoon. So we headed down ahead of them this morning. So they're landing in here tonight for tomorrow's game at the Stadio Algarve, which is a place we know well. Memories of the Gordon Strachan's big 10,000 strong selfie. Remember that one?
That's right.
Another embarrassing occasions. Only beat Gibraltar 2-0 as well, or something like that. There's been a few in there. It's a cracking little stadium. So a good game tomorrow night.
I mean, is there anything else Celtic-wise that we should... Anything else? I mean, Keith was...
they talk about Shin Yamada, the striker. I think he's involved with Japan this week, tonight, I think it is. That should maybe move along towards the end of the week. Again, is that going to be the big marquee striker signing, or is it another kind of bit of a punt and see how it gets on? I don't know. It could be a superstar, like... Similar deals with Dyson Maeda and Rio Tati for small change, really. I mean, great signings, but we just don't know. I don't think he's got the same pedigree as guys like Kyogo had when he arrived. But he should a little bit interesting in Japan. So we'll see if that one is that going to be the striker that he wants. I don't know. I would still think you'd need a more experienced kind of campaigner up there. So that'll be an interesting one as well. Yeah, but I think you'll start seeing the wheels turning in the next week or so. I think this is always going to be a kind of a wee lull period to get the early ones in. The early ones you line up for months, and then they'll have to go and jump on the transfer merry-go-round the next few weeks.
Keith, any last words for Mick before we send them off into the Portuguese night?
Well, just take it easy. Don't let Frank come out. And remember, Mick, you're going to have to be properly hydrated for this game tomorrow night, because you are in direct line of fire from the late Algarve sun. Yeah. That press box is going to be an ordeal. If Frank the Tank gets the better of you tonight, this could be an issue.
No, this evening, big game tomorrow night. So the tonight will be an evening of quiet reflection and contemplation. Settling down with a good book. Getting myself fresh for tomorrow night. Pre-season training starts here for me as well.
I've heard all these lies so many times, Michael.
I believe you, Mick. I believe you.
We'll fool you, Dan.
Hopefully, we might see you on tomorrow night's Hotline Live, perhaps.
Yeah, probably from an Algarvian jail or something like that.
Hotline Live from prison.
Aye. If you can pay my bail, I could do Hotline Live tomorrow night for the game.
Mick, thanks ever so much as usual for joining us in the Hotline Live.
No worries, chaps. We'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers, Mick. Michael Gannon there in Portugal. I like having Mick on. There's very few people that Mick, eh?
You know, it doesn't matter how many years, how many pre-seasons, he just keeps on going. He digs deep for the team, does Mick?
He's no hero.
No.
We talked about
a
Conor
very
Coady.
naughty boy.
We talked about Conor Coady and Rangers at the top of the show, and we mentioned that Russell Martin has done an interview. Should we maybe hear what he had to say?
Let's listen.
Why not?
Well, we need a few more games to feel maybe some problems we might have or stuff we need to really focus on and improve. But in terms of the 2.5, 3 weeks work, I've been so impressed with them and what I've seen, their willingness to run, to try. They're so tired still. The heat here, you felt it today. Double sessions every day this week apart from today. So they have worked so hard. So now it's about tapering down, using the games to experiment a few things and work out what we think is the best team, the best way to approach that game. And so that means we have 1 or 2 new players by that point as well. But with the group we've got right now, what's the best way for us to win that game and to prepare for that?
Are you relatively relaxed about this game coming so quickly in your reign?
I'm not sure he'll ever be relaxed as the head coach of Rangers Football Club. So I think we always want more. We'd love a bit more time. We'd love a bit more, a few more players in now. But it just doesn't happen. Like, football's not ideal. So we will be happy, I think, with the work that we've done. We have to be happy with the work that we've done to try and put performance on the pitch to win the game and to look like us and to make sure we have something to really build on.
In terms of players who have had moves before you came here, made the bigger money moves, such as Murami, Cortez, Danilo, just wonder what you've made of working with them so far.
Good guys, really good guys. Trying everything to make it work here after different experiences so far at this football club, but they've been brilliant to work with. Really, really good. All come back in good shape, working really hard, and now it's up to them to make sure they sort of become part of the plans or part of the team.
What's your thoughts on Askew? Also, would be a lot of speculation about what you see as like he's now from it home course. He been like the player, the person. What do you see as?
He's been good, Nico. He's been good. He has so many tools. It's up to us to make him. I think less is probably more with Nico. We can get more out of him, more end product by doing a bit less. So he hasn't got to make the game up now. So it's about making him understand why we're asking him to do what we're going to ask him to do, and him seeing the benefit in it, because he's a really outstanding footballer. And he has big character. I think you need that. It's why he's done well at this football club. He has big character. He wants to take the ball. But I think he's had to do a lot in the previous season, a lot to sort of impact things, whereas now I'm going to ask him to do a bit less. And when he does have to do stuff, to do it with real quality, aggression, intensity, which he has. So hopefully we will be able to bring out an even more impactful Nico, because I think he's a really excellent player.
You see him as very much part of what you're going to try and do here.
I think we're really strong in the midfield department with Tello signing and all that stuff. So I think we're really happy with the options we have in there.
Is a contract for Nico something that's still on the agenda?
I can say it with real calm and happiness that it has nothing to do with me. I just train him.
Can I ask about your management style and the standards that you're going to expect of the boys around the training ground, off the pitch, all that sort of stuff? I mean, how are you going to hold them at account essentially as footballers?
Off the pitch, we'll treat them with real respect, hopefully with care, with love. They'll feel that. Like, I love how hard they're working already, how much they've been willing to take things on. But when we're working, and there'll be certain standards that I think this football club demand. We've demanded to coaching staff where we've been, even more so now. So they know there's not many rules, but the few rules we have are really important to us. And one of them wasn't upheld yesterday, so they ran today, even though it's the day before a game. They understand. I don't think there was too much moaning was there. because they know, we made it really clear. So I think respect and clarity and honesty, I think always, and I think that'll be really important. But when we're working, we're really working. When we're not, we can have a good time and we can enjoy each other and work things out. But when we're working, it's proper.
Can you give us an insight into any of those rules? Is there anything you can tell us?
Russell, you talked about demands, and when you think back to the friendly at Ibrox last week against Bruges, those demands at half-time from the supporters, were you surprised by that, or did you use that as a learning point to say, this is where we are, guys, this is now very real?
That's what I was very happy at half-time. I think we need to put performances that the fans feel connected with. Hopefully if they felt very differently at full-time than they did at half-time. I certainly did. The players did. But it's interesting for us to see some habits creep back in that we need to get rid of quickly, especially at Ibrox, where we're going to have to play with so much energy, so much aggression, so much intensity, and when we lack that, I probably expect the crowd to feel a certain way. I hope in 2 weeks' time they'll be there, fully behind us. We need to give them something to really feel energised about, and I think we will. I hope we will. That's the plan. And then after that, it's all about how we do on the pitch, what we do on the pitch, and if we're winning, if we're playing with the energy I want us to play with and the way we want to play, then I think hopefully we'll have a crowd that feels connected to that team.
How exciting are you looking forward to getting that first big Ibrox experience? We've seen the sort of electrifying impact the stadium and the crowd have had in Europe the last few years. I mean, how much are you relishing that experience?
I think it's the reason we turned down a few jobs and were sort of hoping and waiting for this one. When we spoke about it, was for them nights, for those moments, to try and come up here and win things, and to do it in our way. And I think if we can get it rocking and rolling, it'd be amazing. It'll be one of the best moments of all of our careers. So now we have to do it.
I suppose you didn't really get many of them as a player. I mean, was that something that you feel you missed out on just because of the way things were going at the club at that?
Yeah, there was still some good nights. I remember my debut against Aberdeen at home was fantastic. Scoring against Harps, fantastic. That's probably about it. But no, it was a difficult period. I said that, but I learned so much. It's prepared me so much for now. Having the feel and the taste of the club and the expectation, the city. I felt my whole playing career was preparing me to be a manager, really. I never expected to achieve what I did in my playing career. I always wanted to be a head coach and a manager. I feel that time has prepared me so much.
Russell Martin there. Rangers easy okay, says Keith. So early, but Russell Martin seems like the first Rangers manager in years you can actually listen to. He doesn't waffle, no bravado, and he's clearly a clever guy. And Luke Skywalker is one of a few people that wants to know about Xavier Mbuyamba. Keith, can you tell us more?
Well, I've checked it out with friends of mine, sources of mine in the Netherlands. He's an interesting young player, 23, capped, I think, for Holland's under-19s previously. I think he had a bit of an issue with his heart and had to have a defibrillator implant, which kept him out of the game for about 6 months or so. Lots of comparisons between him and, I think he's, and I don't think it's a helpful comparison actually, the young Virgil van Dijk. But he's been at Chelsea, he's been in Barcelona. I think he was a player that Celtic were interested in not that very long ago as well. And he's available for about 500 grand. So it's not, it wouldn't be fortunes. But look, are Rangers interested? I don't know. What I can confirm, what my sources in Holland are telling me this evening, is that there has been no contact between the clubs. So is he somebody that Rangers are monitoring closely? Very possibly. Have they made a move? Have they opened discussions about trying to get a deal done? Not as far as I'm aware. And a lot of that might be, down to what the situation is likely to be with John Souttar over the next couple of weeks. Does John Souttar leave? As we discussed last night, Dan, with 1 year left in his deal. If so, you would think Rangers will need another centre-half coming in the way. If John Souttar stays, I think he's probably got the four. Once he gets Conor Coady in, I think he'd be fairly satisfied with the options at central defence. But I think, you know, that there's a number of moving parts on this one. But as I said, the latest that I heard from Holland this afternoon, confirmation that there has been no club-to-club discussions on it.
Because JD Gassama was signed today. He's number 7 signing, I think, isn't he?
Yep.
For Rangers. But there's going to be plenty more, isn't there?
Yeah,
Either
I
man.
mean, yes, there has to be. Rangers, you know, as the point I was making when we were having that chat with Mick earlier, Rangers in a situation where they don't have the luxury of just thinking 4 or 5 players will make this team really, really, really competitive. What they need is a squad, and they need a whole variety of different options, and that's why you're seeing the numbers arrive in bulk and at pace early in this transfer window. You would expect it to continue, but it can't continue indefinitely. As Russell Martin's already said, the numbers now are getting a bit silly in terms of the squad that he's working with. So Rangers need to get players out the door as well as Target wants to come in the way. And, you know, I'm saying Suter, but Robin Proper would be another one. You know, what they can't allow themselves to end up in come the end of the window is, you know, no room to sit, no seats in Auchenhowie, and guys falling over themselves because their squad's so bloated. So to do this strategically, properly, sensibly, financially, viably, they need to start getting a few out the door as well.
You mentioned Robin Proper, Keith, and before we move on from Rangers, I wanted to get your take on it, because reports that he's apparently holding out for basically to get his deal paid off if he's going to go back to 20 in the Netherlands. It created quite a big reaction from fans, and I'm kind of surprised by it. Let me run through them. Robert Pender says, Proper does not realise that the Rangers owners are very wealthy, and it's a dangerous move to hold them for a payout before leaving. Rangers could just retain him, not play him for any games, and he would soon learn not to be greedy. He was a misfit and a failure, so just go. Scott says Robin Proper is a damn cheat wanting compensated for his Rangers release. Proper should be paying Rangers as agreed terms. The former club while still a Rangers player. Rangers should play hardball and force him onto the football scrap heap by not letting him go until his contract is up. He shouldn't get any win bonus, and he shouldn't be in any squad. It's not his fault. It's not his fault he's got a contract.
If he was to stay, I think it'd be highly unlikely to feature in any of the squads, to be perfectly honest with you. It hasn't worked. It never looked as if it was going to work. It looked like another terrible misadventure, badly advised bit of business in the transfer market from Rangers. Robin Proper, it seemed very obvious from the very first few games that you saw him, he was going to struggle at Rangers. Look, where you can't blame Robin Proper is Rangers went after him. This was a Rangers mistake. It was another episode of mismanagement, whether that was from the recruitment department that sourced him and thought he could do the job, or whether it's from the financial side, where they've put this contract on offer to him that it was impossible for him to turn down. But really, everybody's can have your say. And Rangers fans, I get frustration. I get the frustration. But the bottom line is, if somebody gives you a contract, they've offered that to you. You didn't ask for it. That's what they were prepared to give. He's a professional. He signed the contract and he expects to be paid. And I think if you were in that situation and a year down the line, people said, well, do you know what? It was a mistake, you know, bringing you in the first place. Well, sorry, mate, that's your fault. Pay me.
Aye, absolutely.
And that will be that. That is the attitude of professional football players. Aye. Again, as I said, look, the Rangers link with Xavier Mbuyamba, again, could that be dependent if Robin Proper does leave? You know, could he be added as a fifth potential centre half, and you let Suter see out his final year, because how much money are you going to get in for Suter? But if you're looking at the finances of it all, you know, people saying let Robin Proper sit and you know, he can say that he's perfectly entitled to do. He can do that, and he can take every single penny he's due, and Rangers miss out on a transfer fee at the same time. Now, the transfer fee, probably most of it would go to Robin Proper to pay off the differential in the contract that he's currently sitting on, and the one that he'd be signing if he goes back to 20-inch cadet. But I'm afraid that's just the situation that Rangers have got themselves into, and they've got nobody else to blame. It was Rangers that decided to go for Robin Proper, and it seemed rather obvious to most observers that probably wasn't going to work out as a good idea.
AGSC Tech says Proper has every right to ask a company to pay for a signed contract. Rangers signed it. I think that pretty much sums it up. And Gianni says good luck getting Matondo out the door as well.
Yep, I would agree with that. And, you know, Matondo, I think he's carrying an injury again. Perhaps not all that surprising. I think he knows he's not going to get a contract. If he was to move on a permanent deal, he's not going to get a contract like the one Rangers were willing to offer him. So that this kind of smart play, I guess, if you're looking at, making as much financially out of this as you possibly can, is to stay, wait till, things are kind of getting towards the end of the window, and then see if there's a loan deal that you can go and you're still getting paid, and you can go someplace else, because it's never felt like a proper fit, if you pardon the pun, for Rabbi Matondo and Rangers, and I don't see that changing under Russell Martin. You've seen that there's an emphasis now on Rangers recruitment, trying to find wide players, and I don't think that Rabbi Matondo fits that bill for Russell Martin. Might be wrong, maybe he will, but he'd need to be injured and available first, and there's no sign of that.
Yeah. Away from Rangers and Celtic, Keith, just to finish, there is a plethora of games tonight in the Premier Sports Cup.
Anything that stands out for you?
I was having a look at the fixtures here. Hamilton versus Hearts.
Yes, that one leaps off the page to me as well.
Yep. Partick versus Stranraer, St Mirren away at Forfar, Inverness, Cali, Elgin, Motherwell, Peterhead as well, and Kelly versus Livingston.
Kelly Livingston will be an interesting game, won't it?
Yeah.
That's at Livingston.
Yeah. No, it's at Kelly.
Is it Rugby Park?
That's at Kelly, yeah.
So it's on Kilmarnock's plastic pitch. Right, okay. That'll be an interesting one. That'll be a good gauge for Stuart Kettlewell, to see, and a good gauge for the Kilmarnock fans to see what sort of impact Stuart Kettlewell has made in his first few weeks in the job. And again, it's very similar with Hearts against Hamilton. I think that's an away game for Hearts. I think it's at Broadwood, actually.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting. They get a decent one at the weekend, but the scoreline sounded far more comfortable than the actual game, as far as I could see. But Lawrence Shankland scored 2 from the spot, and that kind of sets the tone, I think, that Lawrence Shankland will be hoping for now. It obviously won't just be penalty kicks he'll be looking to score, but he's up and running. He's signed a new contract. He scored a couple of goals. He helped his side out of a potentially difficult situation, because I think it was 1-1 for quite a period of time, that match, and I think he scored 2 goals in the space of 3 minutes from the spot to give his side a bit of breathing space. But that should, I'm sure Derek McInnes is hoping, light a fire under Lawrence Shankland, and if he can get himself in amongst the goals over the course of these pre-season not friendlies, the warm-up matches, the League Cup, the Premiership, the Premier Sports Cup. If he can fill his boots and get into the groove, and as the spearhead of a Derek McInnes side in these matches, again, it all feeds into what we've been saying earlier, Daniel. Hearts need to get themselves into that situation where when the season starts, they are ready to rumble. And Lawrence Shankland helping himself to a few goals over the summer should be a big help in that.
Absolutely. And as you can see in the comments, London Lad says same time tomorrow, and we will be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow to report.
Yes, London Lad, we will be.
We will indeed, to report on all those games, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more transfer news. Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Well, it's coming thick and fast just now, isn't it, Dan? So it wouldn't surprise you at all.
Absolutely.
And hopefully by this time tomorrow night, we do have a clearer picture about, has Conor Coady gone with Leicester to Austria, or is he in a car heading up the motorway on his way to Glasgow instead?
Hopefully we'll make that clearer for you tomorrow. But thanks for all the comments, and thanks for watching. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.